All right, guys, so here we are talking about the last part of reporting direct labor variances. So as always, it's not, I think it's very important to explain the reason behind it. And so, yes, it's easy to produce the formula and get the answer from the formula, but it's better to be able to, again, bring a narrative to the story, okay? So that's what this part is all about, is looking at what happens when there is a variance and how do you explain that to maybe people that's not in accounting, right? How do you tell that story? Okay. All right. So when we look at direct labor variances, this could be caused because a production supervisor, they're the ones that are normally responsible for controlling direct labor costs. So an unfavorable variance could reveal a couple of different things. It could reveal improper scheduling and use of employees. So again, we know since lots of times the supervisor is in charge of putting together a schedule. So you have to be as efficient as possible. If you have an unfavorable variance, again, maybe you have some highly skilled employees working on a very simple product, right? And so in that regard, it's going to cause an unfavorable variance because again, it's beyond that. It's all, they're great at what they're doing, or their skill is better set for something a little more difficult or what have you. So you have skilled and highly paid employees versus unskilled and lower paid employees that could cause a variance. Um, Another unfavorable variance could be a shortage of skilled employees. So maybe that's an opportunity, if there's an unfavorable variance, maybe that's an opportunity for training to take place, right? Because if there's a lot of unskilled workers, then maybe they don't really get how to put together a particular part of the process, and you should maybe look into that. And then lastly, you have abnormally high turnover rate among skilled employees. And what that could be a cause of is maybe the production supervisor is very difficult to work with or work for, or, abuse of power, things of that nature. So maybe if it's the first 1 or 2 employees, but if you see continual turnover in that particular department, whether it's high skill or low skilled employees, this is a good opportunity for managers to look into that particular problem, because we know that rehiring people is very expensive. Okay. All right. So moving on, we have fixed and variable factory overhead variances. So we're not going to get into the math behind it in this class, but I do want to talk about, again, the narrative behind it. So when there's an unfavorable factory overhead variance, this could be due to a failure to maintain an even flow of work, machine breakdowns, because again, factory overhead all deals with, property taxes for the facility, insurance, depreciation, utilities, so forth and so on, right? And so if there's variances, it could be all related to these items. So another one is work stoppages caused by lack of materials or skilled workers or labor, lack of enough sales order to keep the factory operating at normal capacity. Again, all of these could lead to reporting factory overhead variances. All right, so now let's dive into what exactly do we do with these variances, right? So maybe in a prior example, I said, hey, we have a $3.5 million variance. And through all of my research and talking to each of the departments and getting to the bottom of it, we finally figured out what was causing the variance. We've had those talks, but nevertheless, we still have variances. So let's talk about financially, what do we do with those? So it says at the end of the period, variances may be reported in an income statement prepared for manager's use. Okay, so as you see on the screen here, you have a sample income statement, and here's our variable and favorable and unfavorable variances, and they have it in regards to direct materials, so forth, so on. It says variances are not reported to external users. That's very important. Because remember, managerial accounting all aims at looking internally, preparing reports for internal users. And so you don't necessarily want to air your dirty laundry out to the world, right, or to the external users. So when preparing an income statement, if you're going to report the favorable and unfavorable variances, this is specifically only for internal users. If this report or the income statement is going to go out to external users, then all of the variances are then transferred into the cost of goods sold. Okay. All right. So I'm going to stop this video here, and then I'm going to pick up and finish this talk with talking about our non-financial